In this lecture, I am going to talk to you about qualitative methods of field work, and the focus of this lecture is on various roles of the observer, means researcher, and that in qualitative research reality is co-constructed. It depends on what kind of relationships you build with your subjects, and 5 specific approaches that I am going to include in this lecture are grounded theory, institutional ethnography, extended case method, and district situation analysis and training needs assessment. The first 3 are covered in most of the textbooks on qualitative theory, and these 2 are relatively new inventions which we have used in some of our researches, and you will see for what purpose and how. So, Indian sociology is largely ethnographic, and it has anthropological tradition. G. S. Ghurye, M. N. Srinivas, Y. B. Damle, T. K. Uman, Andre Bete, all of them have some fieldwork experience, and there are some other sociologists who have used quantitative methods also, such as collecting data on caste, occupation and migration. M. S. A. Rao studied urbanization, K. L. Sharma social stratification, Leela Gulati migration and other demographic issues, and they have used quantitative method. But by and large Indian sociology uses ethnographic and fieldwork methods. Now, here fieldwork has 2 connotations. One, that we learn everything about the community that we study, a holistic perspective or rich data or in-depth or an integrated view, emic view of social reality, you can say. And another approach is to gather specific facts, studying, for example, studying the impact of consumerism on family health in a particular setting with a focus on marital relationships. Now, the last lecture was on reliability and validity, and I tried to show that even the qualitative research has the concept of reliability and validity, but in place of Cronbach alpha it is defined in a slightly different way, and here it is defined more in terms of documentation of all the procedures used by the researcher. So, in this slide I am saying that qualitative researchers can ensure validity by documenting their procedures, all procedures, by letting people know exactly how the researchers prepare themselves for the endeavor and as to how data is collected and analyzed, exact procedures. By best possible mediation between people, researcher and the audience or the readers, by sharing their interpretation with the subjects. This idea came earlier also, and I used a term counter structural method for this. What can be more valid than your subjects, your respondents, your people, your target population, your field accepting the theoretical explanation that you provide in your research. And then the last test of validity would be coherence. If your findings are not valid, then they suffer from incoherence at different points. Then to ensure validity and objectivity, people are also using internet and computer packages for various purposes, for selection of field workers, for training of field workers, for data collection, for supervision of field workers, validation of field work or back checks or evaluation of field workers, and quality data entry checks, some inbuilt methods of cleaning of data have been devised, especially in quantitative research, identify if there are any inconsistencies anywhere, and finally for the analysis for both quantitative and qualitative data, computer applications have become very common these days. There are 5 fieldwork processes: making contact with the respondents, which may also be called, say, rapport building phase, then administering the questionnaire or recording the data in the field, observations, then turning in the completed forms if the questionnaire is used, or field notes for processing, then terminating the interview, and finally the analysis. Relationship with the subject is extremely important in qualitative research. You can play various roles as an observer, because as I mentioned earlier also that the reality in qualitative research is co-constructed, it is the product of interaction between researcher and people. One advantage of qualitative research is in studies of trauma, mental disorders, even physical disorders, palliative care, chronic problems, is that this process of data collection or meeting the community members, meeting the target group, may also lead to healing among the target population. And this healing part in qualitative methods is also presented as a merit of qualitative methods, which quantitative methods of survey, Google Monkey, or email surveys or questionnaires would lack. This relationship that researcher builds with the subject in the field may last long, and researchers go back to respondents, groups, communities, and ask them whether they agree with the findings. And this, if there are 2 possibilities, that they say that yes, what you observed or how you explained our actions, feelings, beliefs, interactions, problems, etc., we agree with you. Then it is a kind of validity, it leads to some kind of validation, it gives credence, it gives you confidence in your results. And if they disagree, then this raises another question which needs to be explored before finalizing the report, that why is it that people disagree with what I have discovered. Now, I said that I will discuss 5 theories: grounded theory, institutional ethnography, and extended case method in short, because they are given in books, and I will spend slightly more time on district situation analysis and training needs assessment, because they are new techniques developed to satisfy certain very specific needs of planners. Grounded theory is commonly seen as theory from data with a set of rigorous research procedures. 2 American sociologists, Glaser and Strauss, founded the grounded theory. They supported qualitative methodology by using constant comparison method, and 2 of their books which became very famous and which laid the foundation of new forms of qualitative methods in the later part of the last century are Awareness of Dying and the Discovery of Grounded Theory. Awareness of Dying was published in 1965 and the Discovery of Grounded Theory was published in 1967. This grounded theory is very close to Herbert Mead's symbolic interactionism. It focuses on how do people negotiate and manage social relations. For example, in study of nurse-patient relationship, and in addition to providing knowledge on certain types of issues so far ignored, this grounded theory also contributed to development of codes, concepts, categories and theories by analyzing qualitative data. Actually, today if some researcher is using grounded theory, we not only expect that the researcher is using a qualitative approach, and approach of building theory from data, means without any theoretical bias in his or her mind. We also expect that rigorous scientific reflective procedures have been used to analyze data, and the researcher is making use of certain procedures for Excel coding, categories, memoing and theories. So, this development of codes and categories, a rigorous scientific procedure to draw inferences from empirical data, have become the part of this grounded theory. It has also given rise to some new ideas as of negative case analysis. Negative case analysis means cases which do not fit in the theory, and to add depth and density to theory. Then theoretical sensitivity means you collect data, the beginning point is data, that is why it is called empirical grounded theory. Your theory is grounded in the data. So, data, then questions, then answers, then again go back to data, again questions, again answers, again data, and at some point of time when you find that yes, now the new data are not adding anything to my theorization, then you have theoretical saturation. Theory saturates, at that point theory saturates, there is no point, you feel that there is no point in collecting more data, you are all the time getting the same results. That is theoretical situation of saturation, and you stop, your theory is saturated. And there is another term, theoretical sampling, which refers to collecting data in the light of categories generated from the data itself. That means what kind of people you are going to contact next depends on what kind of theory you have developed on the basis of the previous data. The term institutional ethnography is used for another kind of qualitative research. This term was developed by Dorothy Smith, who was a Marxist feminist. She was studying the condition, working condition or condition of women in general from the Marxist perspective. In institutional ethnographic approach, you study social interactions in the context of social institutions, for example, school, marriage and workplace. You study social relations that structure people's life, and the focus in this study is on everyday life for the investigation of social organizations. So, individual in an organizational setting, interactions between people in an organizational setting. To quote, examination of work processes and study of how they are coordinated, typically through texts and discourses of various sorts. Discourses or texts can be of various sorts, they can be written, they can be informal, they can be idioms, and they are ideas and beliefs. and assumptions. This institutional ethnography, what it does is the mapping or explication rather than theory building. It explains the text, it works on the text. Studies of work, domestic violence, HIV/AIDS, services, some of the major issues on which people believing in this approach, institutional ethnography, have worked. It also leads to community responses to perceived problems. Now, institutional ethnography, this I have taken from this source, that institutional ethnography research methodology starts from the experiences of people in the institutional processes, workplace, organization. Lived experiences of employees help from researchers identify how social relations structure the bigger institutional system and how policy structures affect employees' career and life experiences. So, it is both, say in the context of gender, how relationships between men and women at the workplace structure the bigger institutional system or normative patterns or expectations, and how policy decisions regarding working hours, flexible work, assignment of work, etc., affect people's career and life experiences. Then extended case method. This extended case method by Michael, this is the reference from which I have taken these points, uses participant observation method to study everyday life in its extra local and historical context. I suppose these terms are clear to students of sociology. It uses combination of positive science, means scientific approach, logical thinking, analytical thinking, and reflexive science in participant observation. So, this extended case method, it is not a mixed methods approach, but it uses the combination at logical level, at philosophical level, at epistemological level, at ontological level. It uses a combination of positive science and reflexive science in study of people's meaning systems. It is dialogical, aiming at interventions in interviews life. Actually, not only extended case method, in qualitative method in general aims at interventions in interviews life. It is not merely studying them objectively, but it also aims at interventions, healing, adding something to quality of life, solving their problems, and this extended case method also means, because of this reflection, that it is spread over space and time. It is not a one time study, it is not a single site study, it is multi-sited and it can be longitudinal, to use these terms from quantitative study. At various points of time, your visit to the field, revisit, then again, and observing them in different contexts, in different historical contexts. I think this kind of approach will be particularly suited to study of neo-social movements, genesis, founding, who are the founding fathers of that movement, what were their ideologies, how did it all start, who are involved, and in what conditions, in what historical circumstances in what situations this neo-social movement occupied different forms or manifested differently. I will spend more time on district situation analysis and training needs assessment. District situation analysis or DSA is developed originally by UNICEF. UNICEF developed district integrated model for HIV and AIDS action. What is integrated model? Integrated model means involving different facets of development or life. It does not confine to simply providing facilities for antiretroviral therapy or making people aware of HIV and AIDS. It also makes interventions in daily life, in community structures, in health, in education, in control of crime, in movements and so many things. All those things which are required, which are relevant for prevention of further spread of HIV and AIDS. Now, the panic about HIV in India has gone down, especially after NFHS 4 data have shown that in India HIV is not spreading as fast as once we believe it to be spreading in the future. But in say 10 to 20 years ago, yes, this was a big issue, and at that time studies of HIV started and people use different approaches. There are quantitative, qualitative. This also, I would say, this also led to inclusion of biomarkers in quantitative studies as in NFHS. And this district situation analysis is using mixed method approach. Objective, you can see from the objectives itself how this district situation analysis looked at HIV holistically. 1. To profile and segment the target group of young people 10 to 24 in Lalitpur district. To examine the nature and sources of vulnerability of the district separately for boys and girls, means why is district Lalitpur vulnerable. Later on we did these studies in 6 other districts of UP also, and UNICEF sponsored these studies in various states of India and outside. To examine patterns of livelihood, this is looking at HIV in an integrated manner, livelihood, marriage and sexuality among the vulnerable groups, especially the adolescents. To geographically map the blocks, clusters and communities on the basis of nature and extent of vulnerability to HIV AIDS. To map availability and access of medical services and their perceived quality. To map availability and access to support mechanisms, groups and structures to address issues related to young people's vulnerability. To assess the capacity of available resources to deal with the HIV AIDS, including the network of activists, NGOs and community organizations, and identify the gaps in services. Originally this term situation analysis was coined by researchers to identify gaps in services, various types of services including health services. But this in the case of district situation analysis as developed by UNICEF, we looked at the problem of HIV holistically. So, this another aim was to explore the medical practices used by medical practitioners, including untrained doctors functioning in the villages, quacks, charlatans, ojhas, tadvis, they are called by different names, and lastly to assess the preparedness of the schools in undertaking the HIV AIDS program and life skills training to the youth in the school. So, there is a focus on adolescents and all aspects of life are covered. This I am quoting from the research report of Lalitpur district, that the study will attempt to examine the level of awareness of HIV/AIDS among the different groups with emphasis on adolescents and help develop group specific strategies for prevention of HIV/AIDS. This strategies is not part of quantitative researches and of qualitative researches also, but in district situation analysis the research being part of, one can say, operations research aims at developing specific strategies based on integrated understanding of the field for prevention of HIV/AIDS. Data used are secondary and primary both. In secondary data we collected administrative records, statistical demographic data from census, district statistical bulletins, records at PSCs, CSCs, district hospitals, VCTC, voluntary counseling and testing centers, RCS surveys conducted by IIPS, district level facilities, DRDA records, and there was a hospital in Lalitpur district, HBMH, which was running a project on HIV. So, we thought that since they are running a project on HIV, they must be more familiar with the issues facing the district from the point of view of vulnerability. Primary data were collected in this manner. One, first of all, we conducted brainstorming sessions with the NGOs. Some of them were working on HIV, some of them were working on other issues, livelihood, microcredit, education. Survey of boys and girls, this 10 to 24 was broken down into two groups, 10 to 19 and 20 to 24 in selected villages and towns. Then in-depth interviews of district level officials, doctors, development officials, administrators, journalists, NGO workers, village volunteers and peer educators and truck drivers at the halt points, which are also called the hot spots, and focus group discussions among boys and girls in age group 10 to 19 and 20 to 24. So, this study combines secondary data, interviews, brainstorming sessions and also survey and focus group discussions. So many methods were used. This is mixing of different methods to attain the goal of understanding vulnerability to HIV/AIDS among adolescents of a particular district in a holistic manner. And then analysis was done, statistical analysis of survey using SPSS, manual analysis of qualitative data obtained from informal or one-to-one or personal interviews and field notes and narratives. Appropriate use of visual data was also made, photographs etc., and these photographs were taken with the consent of the respondents. Now, the outcome or findings of the district situation analysis come in the following forms. In one of the important outcomes of this study, we identified that migrants are a vulnerable community, and migrants especially from the stone mining belt are more vulnerable to HIV. Nature of work and destinations, for what kind of work people go where, and these are the people who are living in the villages of Lalitpur district and they migrate, and migration makes them more vulnerable. why do they migrate and to which places do they migrate. Like sandstone mining labor migrate to Sagar, Shivpuri, Guna, Gwalior, Panna and Vidisha. Agricultural laborers migrate to Morena, Bhind, Davra, Gwalior, Shivpuri, Datia, Indore, Bhopal, Tikamgarh, mostly places belonging to Madhya Pradesh. For construction labor, they migrate to Indore, Jhansi, like this. So, in this and one of the interesting categories, dancing and sex work, they, anywhere they migrate to any place in and around Lalitpur, within the Lalitpur district and around Lalitpur district, neighboring districts more. And there are truck drivers who go anywhere in the country. There are band and music people. They migrate to Gwalior, Indore, Jhansi, Lalitpur, Delhi, and they also go up to Mumbai. In analysis of quantitative data, we had findings of the following kinds, and maps, graphs, charts were prepared, like awareness of RTI, STI among males and females, females, percentage who are aware. This figure shows clearly that males are more aware than females, and in case of HIV/AIDS, this is RTI, STI, reproductive tract infection, sexually transmitting infection, STI, and HIV/AIDS awareness. Again, there is significant difference between males and females. While 85.6% males are aware of HIV, only 40.2% females are aware. So, we had findings of this kind also. This was followed by sharing of report with UNICEF and district authorities, open discussion on the findings in presence of district authorities, NGOs and village heads. These are some new things. Earlier, researchers did not discuss their findings in presence of different people, those who matter, NGOs, village heads, district authority, openly discussing openly with a general notice, and minor revisions on the basis of open discussion were made, on the basis of feedback that we received from the people. Now, in visual data you can see that sometimes some photographs are quite revealing. Here this is photo 4.1, a 13-year-old boy getting married is being carried on a bicycle. You may not see this scene in urban areas, but this tells us about their economic condition, marriages, importance of marriage, age of marriage, and whether married couples of this age group would be aware of RTI, STI, HIV, are they ready to accept responsibility of parenthood, what kind of sexuality norms would prevail. So many things can be seen from just by looking at a photograph. This is another photograph, interesting, a young boy making a balloon out of condom supplied to his mother by the A&M, which shows that there is so much of wastage of distribution, and either people are not interested in using them because there are some reasons of dissatisfaction, or they do not take them seriously. So, A&M distributes things people do not use, and they are put to use by small children. See how this girl is smiling and this boy is playing it like balloon. We also made charts and graphs, like this small box tells us about misconceptions about condom. Some people think that should not be used because it is harmful for uterus of woman, is useful for intercourse during menstruation to protect the man from getting dirty. This tells us about the beliefs of those people and what kind of care we should exercise, or what more is to be done to implement the program in the benefit of the larger masses. So, all these things, it cannot be used as it is so yuki, condoms increase the heat in the body and so on, lead to eczema, should not be used because they are old, they cause reaction in man's body leading to loss of strength and so on. This map shows the points of vulnerability. This is the map of district Lalitpur. On this side and this side you have Madhya Pradesh, this is Jhansi, another district of Uttar Pradesh, and these are the villages, and in the same map number of name of villages and degree of vulnerability can be shown. These are vulnerable groups, and as you will see later in the context of participatory research, actually these maps can show many more things than what we have shown. We have shown villages and numbers, but many more things can be shown with the help of maps, and maps can be generated by the people themselves. Participatory, this is called participatory technique. We also conducted mapping of HIV/AIDS in Bihar. This we did for UNICEF to identify hot spots, number of sex workers, MSM, IVD use, their mobility pattern. And why I am mentioning this is that a special technique was used, qualitative methodology, participatory approach. You see, we objective or we outside social scientists would find it extremely difficult to talk to hidden populations like sex workers and identify all kinds of sexual activities they engage in or their clients expect them to do, and these are personal sensitive issues. So, and even for us it will be difficult to identify whether somebody engages only in singing and dancing and also engages in sex work. So, sex workers and MSM of Durbar, an NGO of such workers from Calcutta, was trained. We got some members of this group, brought them to Patna, where the district, the capital of Patna in Bihar, also the state capital, where the office was created, and these sex workers from Durbar were trained to collect data by using participatory methods. They were, some of them were illiterate, some of them were primary pass, and you can imagine what kind of difficulties we would face in training them to collect data by using participatory method from sex workers, IVDUs, MSM, etc., under the supervision of experts, and we did this. And ultimately we found that the methods succeeded. Now, another research I want to talk to you about, a qualitative research, was a research on training needs assessment of elected representatives of Gram Panchayats and Panchayat secretaries. I and Dr. Shailen Dwivedi of GTZ Himachal Pradesh conducted this study. The objectives of this study were to capture limitations and constraints being faced by elected representatives and Panchayat secretaries to perform their key roles. Actually, the idea is that, as you know, that government has transferred a large number of responsibilities for rural development, and they include legal, administrative, democratic, political, and many other types of responsibilities to elected representatives of Gram Panchayat, and to assist them Panchayat secretaries have been appointed. Some are regular, some are contractual. These elected representatives, some of them are illiterate and they cannot even read in native language, in Hindi also they cannot read, and you have enormous information. Sometimes they are given information on their roles running into hundreds of pages of Hindi and English, and they are not able to understand. So, this training needs assessment was done to identify that if they are trained, when they should be trained, at what place they should be trained, whether in the village itself or Panchayat Samiti or block or district headquarter or outside the district or in capital city or in other states through demonstration of successful panchayats. So, and for that a very different methodology has to be developed and we developed this. So, second objective is to elicit feedback from elected representatives and panchayat secretaries on their level of understanding. So, first we have to decide out of so many responsibilities on which major responsibility should be focused, and then study their level of understanding and competency to perform those tasks, to analyze the gap between existing level of knowledge and competency of elected representatives and panchayat secretaries and the expected level of knowledge and competencies as described in the relevant acts, rules, schemes or job profile, to identify the professional new requirements of elected representatives and panchayat secretaries in the context of their changing roles and capabilities, to map the demands and expectations from the senior government staff of the department of PRIs and to capture any other express training needs of ERs and PSS and their suggestions for improvement of the future training program. Although it was a qualitative study and we conducted interviews and focus group discussions, interviews with ERs, PSSs and other administrators and people, but we also conducted focus group discussions, and in these focus group discussions with elected representatives of Gram Panchayats and PSS done separately, on one day with ERs, another day PSS. We also wanted to arrive at some number of competencies and gaps. The purpose was that if these training needs assessment TNAs are repeated over time, say at a gap of 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, then we can also see whether overall level of competency of elected representatives or panchayat secretaries has increased or decreased. The profile of elected representatives may change, membership of course will change. Some elected representatives will continue, some may not continue, but the competency, we are concerned with competency of elected representatives, whether there is any change in that, we expect a general improvement, whether there is a general improvement or not. There may be an improvement, there may be deterioration, it depends on the interactions between elected representatives and people and different types of needs which arise from time to time or focus of the administration. In some districts administration may focus on one thing, in other districts administration may focus on other thing. So, data collection was done, interviews with officials and NGOs to find out individual procedural, technical, managerial, financial or socio-cultural requirements of the target groups to be able to do existing tasks as well as emerging tasks. Then FGDs with elected representatives and panchayat secretaries to capture their experiences and suggestions on the training needs with help from DRDA and BDOs. DRDA officials and BDOs, block development officers, they helped us a lot in organizing these focus group discussions, mostly at PSCs and CSCs. Discussion combined with generation of scores of competencies and needs for longitudinal purposes. This was unique to focus group, and we have not heard focus group discussions yielding numbers, but in this study we also made an attempt to produce numbers of certain qualities in discussion with the participants of the focus group discussion. Actually, in arriving at numbers by consensus and in discussing with them, that imagine that the incompetent person is at 1 and most competent at 10 kind of. Somebody will say 4 in this respect, say with regard to managerial task, where are you? Somebody will say 4, somebody will say 7, and then we will engage them in discussion why 4 or why 7, and ultimately through consensus we are able to arrive at a number which shows the overall competency of the participants, elected representatives and panchayat secretaries. Tools are FGDs. The facilitator presented core area of responsibility, then discussion followed. After listing the difficulties vis-a-vis a task, the group was asked to discuss and debate the importance of the task in their day-to-day functioning. After this discussion about the importance of a task, they were asked to give a rank to each task 1 to 10 in terms of importance, and a score of existing competencies to perform a specific task was obtained. This is a photograph from the discussion. This is women office bearers and members of Jilla Panchayat, Dharamshala district, Kangla, FGD among them. This is facilitator, these are members, women members of Jilla Panchayat. These 4 districts constituted the field. So, the issue of sampling in this research TNA also we face the issue of sampling. We sampled for, this is called wet desert. All the time these districts are covered with snow and field work could not be done here, and from the rest of Himachal Pradesh we selected 4 districts in 4 extreme parts for conducting this study. So, now the scores could be scores of importance and competencies could be given separately for males and females, ERs and PSS for different blocks and overall for Himachal Pradesh. Analysis was done therefore separately for the district males, females, Gram Panchayats close to the block headquarter and remote Gram Panchayats. In doing sampling of Gram Panchayat, this fact was kept in mind. Then PRIs from tribal areas, yes, there are some tribal areas and special rural development schemes meant for tribal areas are running there. So, we wanted to know specifically about levels of difficulties that elected representatives and PSSs of these tribal areas are facing. Then panchayat representatives from all the 3 tiers of Panchayati Raj institutions, district, Panchayat Samiti and Gram Panchayat, and Panchayat Sahayaks and Secretary. This is a type of table that analysis of statistical data reveals. Key area of responsibility, Jilla Parishad representative, Panchayat Samiti representative, Gram Panchayat representative and Panchayat secretaries and Sahayaks. So, if you compare these numbers row wise, you find, and also these columns are subdivided according to gender, male, female. So, take legal understanding. If you look at these figures, the maximum figure is 5.91 and this 5.91 shows that as far as legal understanding of matters pertaining to Gram Panchayat administration is concerned, the legal understanding is highest among Gram Panchayat representatives who are males, and it is minimum 1.28 is minimum. This is among Panchayat Samiti representatives. Actually, the research report also shows that Panchayat Samiti representatives are the most demoralized people. They have no role to play actually. In Panchayati Raj institutions, they have no role. The most important role in Panchayati Raj institutions is of Gram Panchayat representatives, and no wonder that they show the best legal understanding. Similarly, judicial figures are not available, and civil works again not available. They are available for two categories, others, overall score. In overall score we can make a comparison. In a large study, now we are near the end of this lecture, and I want to say a few more things, that in a large study requiring several interviewers, training of field worker is very important. In objectives of the field work, confidentiality, anonymity, filling the questionnaire, interviewing the correct respondents, ability to deal with situations that may arise during interviews, to be courteous, friendly, ways of reducing the non-response rate as well as non-responses, ethical aspects, and we will have one special lecture on ethical aspects. Regarding this special situation, in DSC in Lalitpur, we faced a situation that people will not come forward and talk to us and help us in filling our questionnaires, because there was a rumor at that time that government is enlisting people for sending them to Iraq as manual laborer. So, they thought that if we write down their name and we collect details about them, maybe government will select some of them for sending to Iraq. People were afraid of. So, it took us lot of efforts to convince people that no, we are not sending anyone to Iraq, this is only for a research purpose, and you may provide data in a fearless manner. Then training may be training may use written material, you may prepare general interview manual, lectures, demonstrations, role playing, and we suggested in training needs assessment what kind of training method would be most suitable for elected representatives of Gram Panchayats, and where should this training be provided, etc. etc. Then at the end, terminating the interview is a very sensitive issue, and this also affects our findings and our possibility of revisits and counter structural method, that going back to people and discussing your findings. Obtain all the information required, comments of the respondents after all formal questions have been asked should be recorded. This was especially needed in having focus group discussion and to arrive at numbers of competencies and gaps in knowledge in TNA. Answer questions about the project. People will ask, why are you collecting data? They may also have some other questions, some personal queries, anxieties about something, and at the end you say that you will answer them, but let us first finish the interview and then we will answer your queries. They have spent 1 hour with you in giving you data. It is your moral responsibility to help them in by, if you can, leave a positive feeling among them and thank the respondent. Thank you. So, what this lecture has done, in addition to some basic concepts of grounded theory, institutional ethnography and extended case studies method, we have also introduced two other qualitative methods, one of district situation analysis and another of training needs assessment, in development of which we played significant role, and these kinds of studies can broadly be called part of operations research or monitoring and evaluation of research program. They also generate hypotheses on the basis of which future development programs can run. Thank you.